Decentraland is following textbook Elliott wave and Fibonacci ratios where our analysis was on point to the dollar. So today we are going to go into deeper detail on how to read the markets like a pro so you can take profits at the top, wait for the corrections, and maximize your buying opportunities. So if you like today's video, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. If you don't know me by now, my name is Jiggy. I'm the award-winning author of The Extraordinary New Venture Capital Opportunity, How to Invest Like a Pro, featured in the best-selling book, High Probability Trading Strategies, where I used to focus only on currencies back in 2008 for around 7 to 15 years. Now I exclusively focus only on cryptocurrency. So let's dive straight in. So Decentraland, we know metaverse is a massive deal right now. Facebook's changed its name to Meta. It's taking text messaging to images to video conferencing like we're doing right now to VR, augmented reality where we're using NFTs, play to earn, GameFi, digital property, digital garments is taking the world by storm, but it's still very, very early. But today we're going to focus on Decentraland, on the technicals, because ultimately we're still in a very speculative market, meaning the psychology of fear and greed, optimism and pessimism, fear of missing out, fear, uncertainty, and doubt drives the market. Whether you like it or not, that's just the nature of the game. But that's not only true to crypto, it's true to most financial markets. So right now, Decentraland is a top 31 cryptocurrency. The market cap is $5.2 billion. We know it had a massive surge recently, but it's also gone through a bit of a correction. So we did a video. Oh, before we jump into the video, right? Decentraland is just brilliant, like absolutely brilliant. Like, look at this. This is just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. There's top celebrities now buying digital land, building digital property, doing some amazing things. And this is going to be a big part of our world that we're moving into over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Some estimate that this will become $1 trillion industry, as in the metaverse itself. But we did a video back on, the first one on Decentraland was on November 13th. And what I said in the video is, we're following these textbook Elliott wave patterns, and we've got this 1, 2, 3, wave 3 happening, where if I can draw this here, because this is so important, because if you can see this in advance, you can maximize your profit. Because if you bought down here, we projected in advance. This is really important because Elliott wave and Fibonacci is a leading indicator. So it allows you to see the future with high probability. We said the market is likely to top out in this region over here and then follow by a correction, right? So we've got this wave 1, 2, 3, and anticipating this wave 4. So what we said, what was the title of that video? Let's have a look. Decentraland is exploding. It's the most searched crypto right now, but is it the right time to buy? And my conclusion based on the technicals was no, it's not the right time to buy because most of the profit has just been made. They have this massive surge. So when there's that kind of panic buying, fear of missing out, we don't want to be falling for that. We want to be buying down here and taking profits at this top part here and then waiting patiently because this wave 4, what we're going to talk about today, is a classic typical profit-taking wave, and it's so common with all cryptocurrencies, and we want to be ahead of the game. So next up, we're going to look at another video that I did, which was around 2-3 weeks later. It was on December 3rd, and we said how to bag your 100x and sell at the top. The art of profit-taking. Most people don't know this, right? That was the video, and we said, look, the previous video, it was saying, let me just draw it like this. Let's pull this up. The price was here, right? And we anticipated the price would go to here. So if we look at what we said $4.49 or $4.39 or $4.43, we'll call it round it up, $4.44. So we said that in advance. And then the price surged and it just shot up just past that mark, right? And it was quite accurate. And we went up to around just above the $5 mark. We'll look at that information more accurately. But the main thing is that we projected this in advance. And what we said in this video is that we've had an overbalance of price, meaning that we've had this movement to the downside, which is bigger than any other previous move to the downside in this particular wave in itself, right? So now let's jump into a live chart, right? Let's jump into a live chart with Decentraland. Right, so we're on a daily chart, but look at this textbook, right? It's beautiful when it comes together like this because we said this in advance, really, really important because when we did our first video, it was here. The second video, the price was down here. And what we drew was this box, this pink box in advance. Back on November 13th, we drew this based on time and price. And look, is literally entering into that pink box right now. So now what we're going to do is an update, right? And by the way, if you want to learn how to read the markets like a pro, the buying and selling psychology, so you can maximize when to take your profits, because these kind of patterns repeat over and over again, especially when there's a lot of volume. You can take my free masterclass. It kind of breaks down, or not kind of, it does break down Elliott wave and Fibonacci and the high level thinking that you can start understanding this and seeing these patterns ahead of time. So now let's just dive into this. Let me delete this, clean this up. We can kind of delete these lines as well. We don't need this. We've surpassed that information. Yep, we can also take away this question mark, because at the time, because we can only do probabilities and never certainties. At the time, we said it's a high probability wave 3 high. But now that we've had this big correction to the downside in 3 waves, we can be very, very confident that we're hitting this wave 4 zone down here. So let's now look at what's likely to occur next. Again, typical wave 4 zones, and we did this in advance, is we measured this particular wave 3. We measured this wave 3, and a typical wave 4 retraces back down to the 38 to 50%, and it shouldn't trade into the range of wave 1. That's just typical classic Elliott wave rules. Again, it applies to crypto, it applies to foreign exchange, it applies to stocks, it applies to gold, but I found it implies the best to crypto. Why? Because the psychology is a lot more raw, the market is a lot more infant, and there is more speculation because it's younger projects. You know, Decentraland is still a young project. If we go back to CoinMarketCap, how long has Decentraland been around? It's only been a few years, right? 2017, right? 2017. So what's that? That's 5 years, or 4 or 5 years. So that's young in the grand scheme of things. More mature than a lot of other projects. So now let's just wrap this video up with a bit of technicals, a bit more advanced technicals. We're going to keep it quite simple at the same time, even though we're using the term advanced. We've got this nice wave a wave B, and looks like it's forming a wave C. Now we want to always anticipate, similar to this correction down here, markets always, not always, a lot of the time, most typically correct in 3 waves, like this A, B, C. If I draw it like this, a wave 2 and a wave 4 are corrective waves, A, B, C. And that's what we're looking for over here, a nice A, B, C pattern. So now what we're going to do is price, right? Wave A, wave A and wave B have a direct relationship. So we're going to measure this wave A, and we're going to project it forward from this wave B high. And there's 2 particular ratios that we want to be aware of. One is 62%, and the other is 100%. Now, a typical maximum of a wave 4, it's not as common, is 62%. So we've got these 2 price zones. Now, keep in mind, we can only do probabilities and never certainties. So we've got 2 very particular price zones. In fact, we are in this zone here. So let's do this. We've got this zone down here. If we're now breaking it down a bit more, and we've got this zone down here. These are the 2 high probability zones which we're fast approaching. There's a couple of other factors that we need to take into account. One is momentum, right? We're looking at the weekly chart. What we have is the momentum is deeply oversold, and it looks like the blue line is going to cross over the red. So over the next, probably by the beginning of next week, we're probably going to get what's called a bullish reversal over here. And what that tells us is, if you see how this lines up, this is very valuable information. This high marries up very nicely with this, if I can just get this clear over here, with this high over here. You see how it lines up? It's not perfect, but it's close, and it gives us an indication of when the momentum is changing, because the market moves in rhythms and cycles. Now we've got this part down here looking like the blue line is going to cross over the red, which is now coinciding with Elliott wave patterns and Fibonacci price. So now we're getting what's called a confluence of events, where we've got a few different pieces of information telling us the same thing. We've got momentum, we've got pattern, we've got price, and we're also going to look at time in just a second. So we go back into the daily chart now. We're going to look at the daily momentum also. Let's just pull this up. Now, let's just get the 13. Oh, here we go. This is also lining up as well. So now, on the next bullish reversal on the daily chart, you can see this momentum indicator. If I just zoom in like this, if I get rid of this as well, you can see that this low over here is not too far off from this low down here. This high up here on the momentum indicator, this one here, if I can get this, is very close. So we're using this as extra information. So we can assume that the momentum by itself is not enough information, but when the blue line crosses over the red, and keeping into mind that the higher time frame, the weekly chart, is also looking like it's going to turn bullish. Now these two price zones, this one's looking more probable, but we could also look at this one. We're not going to go into we can go to a bit more of a detailed chart as well, where we can look at if this is breaking down to a 5-wave structure. We're not going to do that today, but just this information here is enough for us to go, okay, we're probably coming close to an A, B, C correction before we're likely going to see a wave 5. Last thing we're going to do to help us is we're going to just do some very simple time analysis. And the time analysis we're going to do is similar to the price. Is we're going to measure how long did it take for this wave C to form, and we're going to project that forward from the top of this wave B. And there's two ratios. The typical minimum is 62%. But the most common is this red line, 100%. And then the maximum, typical maximum, again, we can only do probabilities, never certainties, but these rhythms and cycles that the market moves in, especially when it's big cryptocurrency like Decentraland, is going to be 1.618. But what we're going to focus on is the high probability, which is going to be this zone here. Also, we're just going to do one more thing. In fact, let's just have a look. Yeah, one other thing we're going to do. Often wave 2 and wave 4 have a direct relationship, and often they mimic each other. So wave 2, we can measure how long did it take for this wave 2 over here to form. I'm going to measure it, and I'm going to project that forward also from the top of this wave 3. So now we've got a very precise time zone. Right? Let me just make sure you see what I just did there, because I know I did that fast, right? If you're not used to this. But the main thing is the main thing, which is the information that we have. We just looked at how long did it take for this wave 2 to form, and we measured it. TradingView is the software that I'm using here, and this allows you to do this. And then I projected it forward from the wave 3 high to say, right, this is how long it took wave 2 to form, and wave 4 has a direct relationship to wave 2, and quite frequently they take roughly around the same time, give or take. There's other numbers we can also do, but now we've got two zones, which gives us a price cluster, so a time cluster. And what that means is we can actually now narrow this down to say we've got this zone, and we'll give some dates and some prices. But the main thing here is beyond Decentraland and the metaverse right now is the technical analysis. We're doing technical analysis, is leading indicators that gives us valuable information in advance. That's the key. So the date is the 9th of January. So today's the 6th, or in the next 3 days, we should be coming towards the low. So that'll be the earliest. It can end earlier, but we're just going with the probabilities here. And the maximum time zone is the 17th. So we've got like an 8-day window. And then once it gets closer to this, we can go into an hourly chart and see if this is breaking down to a 5-wave structure. So there you have it. Decentraland. We did this video in advance. We saw on November 13th, wave 3 high. We said take profits. We did a follow-up to say, okay, the reversal looks like it's happened. So if you haven't taken profits, start taking profits now. And now we've had a big movement to the downside from as high as, if we go to candlesticks, it probably spiked. Yeah, it would have spiked as high as $6, but the closing price, which is more accurate, because those spikes is more just FOMO, fear of missing out, and panic buying. It's $5.20, and it's pulled back. How much is it pulled back? It's pulled back $3, like over 50-60% all the way back here, but we said this in advance. That's the key over here. So if you want to learn how to do Elliott Wave and Fibonacci, take my free Elliott Wave and Fibonacci masterclass. I spent a lot of time trying to simplify this so you can apply it yourself and just start to see what's likely to happen. Because when we see these amazing waves like this, especially when it's just like literally pointing up, we know that's only sustainable, and the money's going to run out. The money's going to run out because this is people buying, pouring in more money to Decentraland, drives the price up. And then classic wave 4 is profit taking, which means it's going to drive the price back down. So what do we anticipate? Let's finish on one last thing, and then we're going to wrap up. Is we're going to anticipate a wave 5. You go, what does that mean, Jagir? Well, typically after a wave 4, once this completes, if it follows, and it's high probability because it's Decentraland, it's the metaverse, there's a lot of hype around it, and these are technicals. we're probably going to get a nice movement to the upside. When I say buy this, it depends on what kind of money you're playing with. Low caps will probably do much better in terms of percentage performance, but this is a bit more predictable as well. So there you have it. There you have it. So if you like today's video, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, take my free Elliott Wave and Fibonacci masterclass. Let me know what you think, because I just want to educate you to make sure you can manage your portfolio the best you can. So let's finish on a quote. The quote that I normally have in my book. I'm in Dubai at the moment. We just got my COVID test back and it's negative, so I'm flying back to the UK today. We're literally going to fly off to the airport, so I just wanted to get this piece of content. So let's go with the quote of the day. Let's have a quick think. Well, I used this one today, right? I used this one today. I was doing another presentation for some of my students that we were putting some new stuff together, and it's success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. And what I understand that to be is don't reinvent the wheel, right? If you want results that someone else has, you model what they've done. So for instance, the example today, we the main focus today was Elliott Wave and Fibonacci, and we saw how in November 13th, and now it's like early January, we projected in advance what's likely to happen. How did we do that? Well, W.D. Gann, one of the forefathers of technical analysis in the 1800s, started to figure this stuff out. And there was other people that came after him that spent decades and decades and decades. Ralph Nelson, Elliott, put the Elliott wave theory together, combined Fibonacci's, worked some stuff out. So then I could come along back in 2007 when I first started learning technical analysis, plug and play. I don't have to spend decades. I spend weeks, months, and years to learn what takes decades and centuries. So success leaves clues. So I flew around the world learning from different mentors that I had around Fibonacci, around Elliott Wave, around the psychology of the market, buying and selling, risk management, etc. I didn't come up with it. They came up with it. And they learned from someone else that learned from someone else, and they kept on improving because success leaves clues. So the book that I'm featured in, the high probability trading strategies, the author of that book is Robert Miner, and he's one of the best technical analysts on the planet. Like, he wins multiple competitions, and he was one of my main mentors where I could learn this stuff. But what I realized, it applies incredibly well to crypto, to Bitcoin, to what we just saw with Decentraland. So there you have it. Success leaves clues. So like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I'll see you soon. Hopefully, once I'm back in London. I'll be back in London tomorrow. All right, see you soon.